This is our scale install kit. It comes with 4 load cells, a junction box, a display cable. It comes with the display, its mount, and the hardware that secures it. We have cable ties, the power supply wiring harness, and also the mounting hardware. We include some plywood for spacers and installing the roller platform onto the load cells. We have 4 mounting brackets for the load cells with its securing hardware. We have load cell bolts, our 1/2-inch bolts, the spacers between the load cells and the roller platform, a mount for each of the load cells, and these are the jam nuts that go with the bolts. We also use 4 stainless steel button head bolts to hold the roller platform to the load cells. These are the tools that we're going to use for the install. We have a 13 millimeter wrench, which we will use on the battery to install the wire harness. We have a 3/8 inch or 1/2 inch bolt for some of the mounting hardware, as well as a 3/8 inch wrench, again, for the wire harness. For the larger 1/2 inch bolts, we have a 3/4 inch open head wrench, as well as a socket, a 3/4 inch socket. You could use that up with a ratchet wrench, or as you see here, we have a drill equipped with a driver to use that. We also have a 3/8 inch hex head driver for our self tappers that we need to remove from the roller platform to do the install. We have a 3/16 inch Allen wrench for the mounting bolts of the load cell mounts. We have snips to eliminate, to take off excess cable tie length. We use on our button head screws an 8 millimeter Allen wrench. We have 2 of them for this purpose, and we will show you what you might potentially need a Phillips head screwdriver to help make an adjustment on the top platform. We might have to use that later on. In order to do the install, what we need to do is remove the roller platform from the top platform. It is being secured by 6 self-tapping screws. We can expose the heads of the screws by removing 3 rollers. These rollers are spring loaded. We pull out on the axle and they will come out. Now we can use our hex head, 3/8 inch hex head driver to remove the self-tapping screws. The next step is, once we've removed the roller platform, is to install the load cell mounts. We have 2 holes on the top of the mount that will mount the load cell, and the 4 holes on the side, we'll use 2 of those to secure it to the top platform. And then we will secure this hardware with locking nuts. And we need to mount all four mounting brackets to the top platform before we start finishing up with the load cells. All right, what we've done here is we've taken a piece of plywood, spread it across the frame of the top platform, and now we have a little bit of a work area from which we can continue with the installation. We've set the junction box up. This is the top of the junction box because it has two holes for securing it to the top platform. We've run the bottom load cells to the inside and the top one to the outside. So there's a certain order that we use when we do the installation. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to show you how you need to run the wires to the load cell so it does not interfere with the operation of the lift. We're going to take this load cell and bring it across the top platform, but under the center tube of the frame. And we're going to loosely secure the jam nuts to hold it in place. Please note that there's an arrow that's facing down at the very end of the load cell. The open hole of the load cell is outbound of the mounts. And the second one is mounted in or inbound. The again, using a very similar procedure. What we want to do is we want to keep the load cells relatively loose until it's secured to the top platform. We repeat on the other side. Now what's important to note, again, the arrow on the load cell is pointing down. We take this mounting plate, which takes pressure off the bottom side of the load cell, which senses how much weight is on it. So we need that spacer in order to get the load cell to operate properly. What we're doing now is we have to secure the cables to the load cells so that they do not interfere with the scissors mechanism. We insert a special cable tie that mounts to our top platform. Each of the load cells has the same length of cable, so what we're able to do is not have to worry about a special load cell for a special location. Okay, occasionally you might have one of these things breaking off, and so what we're going to do is send along some replacements as well. On this load cell, we have the same length cable, but it doesn't have to run as far. So what we do is we take and we do a loop for it. The next part of the installation is installing the mount for the display and the junction box. Important to note on the mount for the display, it has a key slot, and when installing it, we want the smaller part of the key to be on top. At this particular point, we take the excess amount of display cable and we mount it behind the junction box on the top platform. And we're going to secure it with 2 self-tapping screws. Now that we have the junction box in, what we've taken is the wires for the load cells and we've tucked it down into the channel on both sides. Next step in the procedure is to tighten up a little bit on the bolts securing the load cell to the mounts. This one here is a little too tight, and we're going to loosen that up so that this is more responsive to positioning. We want a little up and down movement, a little right to left movement. Are we missing the... This one's too tight, and this one's... Now we're at a point where we can mount the roller platform to the load cells. We have these spacers that we've set up that we're going to put behind each load cell. That's going to bear the weight of the roller platform until we get the load cell secured to the roller platform. Now we're placing the roller platform back on top of the unit. And what we need to do is there are 4 holes in our top platform that need to line up with the load cells. And again, as we've mentioned before, the load cells must remain loose until it's secured. Now we have spacers that go between the roller platform and the load cell that we have to pick up and place between the load cell and the top platform. In securing this, there is times at which the top platform does not line up with the load cell, and the button head bolt does not fit through the roller platform. There is a separate piece of sheet metal that holds this together, and in order to get it to line up properly, sometimes by taking a screwdriver, pressing it down and moving it, you can line up the holes better. So there's a small hole either side of the button head bolt that you can adjust the sheet metal of the top platform. Now all of these bolts now need to be secured, mostly secured to the load cell. Now it's important when taking the button head bolt and securing it to the load cell, you do not want to put any heavy amount of pressure. This should go in really easily. If it does not, you got to go slowly. These stainless steel bolts can jam inside of the load cell. If it happens, you got to cut off the bolt and replace the load cell. So it's very important that these are not forced, that the load cell is loose and it seeks its way up against the roller platform. All right, now that we have the roller platform secure, we are now going to pull out our spacers, each one from the roller platform. And now the roller platform the full weight of the roller platform is now onto the load cell. What we may have is a little extra space, so we need to tighten up the the button head bolts one more time. All right, the next phase is to install the wire harness for the power supply. So we're going to raise this lift up. We are going to work with the battery and we're going to work underneath the top platform. As a result, as I raise it up, I need to install the maintenance locks to avoid injury. The maintenance locks are located on the end opposite of the steering. We put these in like this, and it prevents the roller platform from coming down onto the operator. And once that's up, we just lower it till it gets into this position. It is solidly, the scissors is in the locked open position. Okay, on this particular part of the install, what we have to do is we have to secure 4 cable ties to the side of the scissors arm, and we have 3 set up right now to receive the wiring. We have 1 that's secured to the bottom of the top platform, which we will feed the wire through in a moment. And the wiring harness gets attached to the battery. The red wire is attached to the red wire of the battery, and the blue wire gets attached to the master disconnect, which cuts the power to the pump. what we're going to do now is trim off the excess portion of the cable ties. What we want to do is make sure there is a little bit of flexibility from the scissors arm to the top platform to take a little extra movement as well down here. It's got to have the ability to move a little bit with the scissors. Okay, the next point of the install is going to be mounting the display. We have 2 threaded knobs that will secure it to the top platform, and the display can be mounted flush up against the top platform, or it could be pulled out slightly and tilted upwards. To be mounted flush up against the platform, to be loosened up, pulled out, and tilted slightly facing upwards. We go back to turning on the power by turning the master lock clockwise, and the scale turns on. It has now power to operate. And well, the last step then is to raise it up and take off the maintenance locks. Okay, the last step will be to replace the rollers that we have taken off earlier to do the installment. Okay, the final step in installing the scale on our HD hydraulic lift table is calibrating the scale. To do that, what we need to do now is 2 things. We need to find weights that would be equivalent to at least 40% of the load capacity, which is 1,000 pounds. So we want to get approximately 400 pounds or more. Ideally, you'd like to have something very, very precise regarding weights in order to put on an accurate amount of weight in order to calibrate. The closer you are to calibrating the right weight, the more accurate, obviously, the resulting weigh-ins are going to be. So to turn on the scale, you want to press the on button and hold until the lights come on. And what we want to do is to program it to the various parameters. We hit the hold and print button, and we get the first parameter. This is determine if we want it in kilograms or pounds. 2 is for pounds. We hit print to advance to the next parameter. This would be the amount of accuracy you want. We want it to tenths of a pound. So we want to go up to 1 is tenths of a pound. The next calibration would be for gradation. We want a 1 on that. C4 is going to be for the load capacity. It was what we want to do is set this at 500 pounds. So we lower this, right, it's set at, right now it's set at 500, we want it at 1,000. And now it's set at 1,000, we move on to the next parameter. This would be the empty weight. At this empty weight, we want to hit 1. We want the lift to calibrate exactly what the empty weight is with all the rollers and the brake handles. This determines the empty weight of the lift. Moving on, we want to now test and determine how much weight is actually on this. The scale needs to be educated as to what we think this weighs. So we're going to take and do 10 40-pound bags of salt. We hit 1 because we want it to calibrate it. So now we're going to load the lift with the salt. We applied the brakes, so if the load starts rolling, it will stop when it hits a brake. So we would like it to calibrate. It needs to know how much weight is on the scale. We're going to call this 401 pounds. £1 for the cardboard. And we hit print, so we want it to calibrate this. And it's telling the scale that this is 401 pounds. Calibration ended. Okay, we move on to the next one. What we want to do is go straight to the 9th parameter. And this is to determine how long you want the scale to remain on. And we recommend maybe 10 minutes. You just turn on the scale whenever you want to use it, and in 10 minutes it'll turn off automatically. So we push the 0 button, it goes up to 10. We hit that, and to save all these parameters, we have to hit the word accum. If that's the case, then it saves these parameters in the display. If you do not hit accum, it will, next time you turn it on, you'll have to recalibrate the whole thing. And there you have it. Now, in this particular setup, if we are inaccurate about the weight, what's going to happen if we are high on the weight, it's going to make everything else that you weigh seem lighter than it is. If this weight is lighter than what you say it is, it's going to make everything seem heavier. So that's one way you can double check from time to time whether or not it's weighing accurately. And we can turn this on. That's it.